Stuck in a love triangle at 29, my heart battles between G1, who wants to be in control and says I'm replaceable, and G2, who gets my passions and already wants to move in. Am I selfish for wanting a partner who values me? How do I choose? Hello everyone, I find myself at a crossroads in life, unsure of the path I should take. How would you approach a decision like this? Backstory: I am a 29-year-old woman and I have only recently managed to get my life in order. It is an understatement to say that I am naive and inexperienced in life. Most of my memories involve some form of partying, substances, or foolish choices. I have had my party years and now by choice I have settled down. I have a decent job, the pay is adequate, I own a car. My hobbies are satisfactory, my social life is acceptable. I would categorize my life as okay, not great, but not bad either. Honestly, I genuinely enjoy my life. It may not be exciting, but I am never bored. I perceive myself as a monogamous woman, but at this moment I technically have two girlfriends. Given this situation, I must eventually overcome my indecisiveness and make a choice that will alter the direction of my life for the foreseeable future. Girlfriend 1: I met girlfriend 1 a little over a year ago when I was 28 and she was 22. I usually adhere to a strict age range for dating, and I understood that the age difference might pose a problem, but I was feeling quite lonely and she was the only person I interacted with at that time. She appears to be more mature than her age suggests, and I fell for that impression immediately. I later learned that she relies on her mother's income. Her mother seems affluent, as she has been supporting girlfriend 1's education, housing, and food for years. Girlfriend 1 does not hold a job for more than a few months and despises the idea of working. She is usually angry or depressed, and the only things that uplift her are sex, marijuana, or being treated to things. She seems to dislike people, and often I question why she incorporates me into her life. She has control issues and becomes upset unless I allow her to make all significant decisions for our relationship, even when those choices are objectively poor. This is not my interpretation. She has explicitly stated, I want to be in control of our relationship, and I desire a girlfriend who does not question me and is obedient. In hindsight, she pressured me into moving in with her when I was emotionally vulnerable and did not want to lose the only person in my life at that time. I moved in with the hope that she would finish her schooling or find a job. However, she dropped out and refuses to seek employment. Requesting her to look for a job ruins her mood and, by extension, affects my week due to how long it takes her to recover emotionally. She even accepted a job and failed to show up on her first day because she deemed service work beneath her. There was a period when she would become upset over something I allegedly did and would end our relationship, then loudly rant at me while I was working from home, leaving me feeling miserable until she would unbreak up with me later that day, at which point we would simply ignore what had happened. This pattern became so routine that I learned to sit silently and accept her anger until she calmed down. Constantly being told by the woman you love that she hates you can numb a person over time. For a while, I convinced myself I was indeed a toxic girlfriend ruining her life because that is all I heard day in and day out for months. Her sex drive is quite high, while mine is significantly lower. She yearns for intimacy constantly, whereas I rarely do. Due to this mismatch in our energy levels, I granted her the all-clear to explore relationships outside of ours, and honestly, it does not bother me. In fact, it alleviates her depressive episodes, prevents her from pressuring me into activities I do not wish to engage in, and overall, it was a positive change for us. What does hurt is when she is down and expresses how little value I add to her life and how I essentially need to earn more money, or she will leave me for someone who can provide that. Although I earn a reasonable income, I do not make enough to support two adults without the other contributing. As mentioned earlier, I allow her to express her feelings before she calms down, apologizes, and we move on. Yes, I recognize how toxic this dynamic sounds. Girlfriend 2 can scarcely believe I am still with girlfriend 1. However, girlfriend 1 and I have been together for over a year and we genuinely love each other even when it sometimes feels otherwise. She has a sweet side that I appreciate and I enjoy spending time with her after work. I admire her sense of humor and she appreciates mine. While our relationship was rocky for several months, the past 30 days or so have been great with only a few minor hiccups. I love her deeply, sincerely I do. However, I am uncertain about our future when her mother ultimately stops providing financial support and I will be the sole provider in our apartment after July. Urging girlfriend 1 to apply for jobs typically leads to her mood dropping and her berating me for not earning more. I spend 90% of my income on bills and groceries, telling me how easily replaceable I am and how much I have ruined her life despite her being the one who disrupted mine. Whenever she is annoyed with me, she downloads a dating application to find a better girlfriend, her words, not mine. Despite all this, I still love her and maintain a smile through the pain because my feelings for her remain strong. I would provide her with everything if I could, but unfortunately I cannot. Girlfriend 1 inspires me to better myself. She encourages me to engage in activities that benefit me, such as exercising, trying new hobbies, improving my self-care, and motivating me to cook instead of relying on pre-prepared foods like I used to before meeting her. However, it is disheartening to spend almost all my money on both of us, only to see her sitting in our living room playing video games, spending her meager funds on marijuana, before experiencing nightly panic episodes regarding her lack of income and attributing her problems to me. Knowing she is aware she will be cut off financially by her family after July and acknowledging that I cannot afford to support both of us. Her anxiety concerns me because if I were to leave her, she would be left alone, and it breaks my heart to think that my selfish decision to leave could ruin her life. Is it my responsibility if she did not plan for adulthood the way I did? Am I being selfish for wanting stability? Is it inappropriate to desire more both physically and emotionally? Am I being overly rigid in wanting a partner who can sustain herself? The more I contemplate this, the more I realize that girlfriend one pressured me to live with her out of fear of losing her financial support, hoping to find someone to bear her financial burdens. She was urgently seeking roommates and spoke to them in a manner that reminded me of how she convinced me to move in with her. Despite her shortcomings, I still love her. I certainly am not perfect by any means. I also do not believe she deserves to be abandoned without support. I was her age once. I remember navigating life without a clear direction, and I would have been devastated if someone had treated me the same way back then. I do not know if I should bet on her pulling herself together with the hope that things become more manageable again. After a year, I also recognized that I should not have moved in with someone who was essentially a college dropout without plans for her future. Now, I love her too much and have a lease with her that will extend until September. Girlfriend 2, I met Girlfriend 2 in October. We began as friends, spending a lot of time together without any scandalous intentions. We were genuinely good friends, talking almost nonstop, attending raves, and doing everything as a pair. We were inseparable, the kind of friends whom others assumed were secretly dating. After December, everything changed. We both realized we had developed feelings for one another. Girlfriend 2 is aware of Girlfriend 1's existence, and Girlfriend 1 knows about Girlfriend 2. There are no secrets, at least on my part. In the grand scheme of things, my acquaintance with Girlfriend 2 is still relatively new. We were friends on an online platform for a few weeks, discovered we lived close to one another, started spending time together, became inseparable, developed feelings, and now here we are. Girlfriend 2 practices monogamy. As do I, she has initiated her career, as have I since we became romantically involved. Girlfriend 2 has treated me in a manner I wish Girlfriend 1 would treat me. Girlfriend 2 makes me feel desired. I believed I lacked a sex drive, but after meeting Girlfriend 2, I realized my low desire stems from a lack of compatibility with Girlfriend 1. Girlfriend 2 has many nerdy and quirky interests that align well with mine. Do you have any idea how challenging it is to find a woman who enjoys both Godzilla and dubstep? And all I wish to do is blend our worlds together. Girlfriend 2 wants me to move in with her once my lease expires so that I can stop cohabiting with someone who seemingly makes me feel and appear miserable. If it were not for Girlfriend 1, I would already be living with Girlfriend 2. However, this situation somewhat mirrors my previous experience with Girlfriend 1. While I am fairly certain Girlfriend 2 can manage living independently without assistance, it is an intriguing coincidence that she developed feelings for me around the time we are both seeking new roommates, especially considering my current vulnerable position. Girlfriend 2 is well known in her community and travels frequently for her job. While I am okay with her work commitments, I anticipate feeling lonely much of the time due to her travel schedule. I also fear taking another risk with my living arrangements again and potentially placing myself in a situation that may lead to unhappiness, although under different circumstances this time with someone whom I technically do not know well. Girlfriend 2 expresses that she loves me. However, I do not believe we have dated long enough to use that term genuinely. I worry about becoming involved in another situation where I move in with someone who claims to love me despite not having a deep understanding of who I am. The notable difference here is that she is closer to my age, shares similar interests, and exhibits enthusiasm for being with me. I also enjoy being seen publicly with her, whereas I occasionally dread going out with Girlfriend 1 due to her behavior toward me. The question. Now I find myself in this predicament and am uncertain about my next steps. Should I remain with the woman I have loved for the past year, fearing to leave her alone in the world to fend for herself, or should I pursue a relationship with someone closer to my age, who shares similar life experiences and interests, and who desires me in the way that I wish to be desired? I feel incredibly selfish for being in this situation, but it seems to have unfolded almost unexpectedly. Although I would take time to be alone, I also yearn for love and connection. Story 2. After 9 years, I finally woke up. I forgot my phone in the car, he said as I banged on our bedroom window at 3 a.m., locked out of my own home. I realize now, he moved 2,000 miles for a job and left me behind. Was I just a convenience? Time to make a choice. We initially met online, and after about a year he moved to my state. He lived in a different state 2,000 miles away, and we began living together with my parents. To be honest, our first year was not a good one, and I should have ended the relationship after that time. There were many warning signs. For instance, whenever people asked him why he moved here, he would always reply, "For his job." That response never sat well with me because he had told me he came down to be with me. I brought it up a few times and he made the excuse that it was just the easiest way to explain things to others. Later, when asked, he would say to be with her, but in a strange, almost sarcastic tone, as if he felt compelled to say it and it lacked sincerity. I did not want to make it a big issue, so I let it go. I disliked the job he had when he moved here, but it helped pay the bills. He was being paid under the table, and his boss would make him work numerous extra hours. It seemed very questionable, but he did not appear to be too bothered by it because the boss would buy them food and they spent a lot of time together, which made it appear he was enjoying himself. However, there were times he would stay out very late and not come home until 3 to 5 a.m. During those times, he would text me very little, if at all, about his whereabouts and activities. There were a few instances in which he lied about where he was, causing me to have panic attacks as my mind jumped to the worst possible scenario that he was cheating. Another aspect that troubled me was when his car broke down one day, so I let him use my motorcycle to get to work while I took my car. My motorcycle key did not have the house key attached, and he had to leave his car keys with the mechanic, so he had no way to access the house. I got off work an hour later than he did, so I told him I would be there soon, but he chose to go to Hooters to grab something to eat. I am not particularly fond of Hooters, no offense, but I have insecurities regarding it, and I dislike it when he goes there. This was the second time he went to Hooters. The first time was with his work buddies, and he initially lied about it but eventually confessed and claimed he would never go there again because the food was poor. Yet here he was going there on my motorcycle even though he had previously described the food as subpar. However, the major red flag that should have prompted me to leave immediately was when he hit me. He struck me multiple times on my arm and thigh, resulting in bruises the next day. We had an extensive conversation about this, yet I still stayed with him. He knows exactly what to say and is very persuasive. He has never hit me again, but he found other ways to abuse me. Despite all this, we managed to discuss our issues and signed another lease. The second lease was located closer to my job, so he needed to find new employment. His second job was unexciting and dull, as his coworkers were older individuals with families and there were no out-of-work events. To occupy his free time, he played video games. It was not merely 1 or 2 hours a day, it was 10 hours on weekends. It was always challenging to persuade him to do chores or spend time together because he became so engrossed in his gaming. This continued for a few years, and each year, I gaslighted myself further, accepting the situation because I thought at least he was at home and not cheating, even though he was never emotionally available or helpful around the house. Now he is starting his third job. This job is demanding and challenging, but I supported him wholeheartedly because he needed to secure this position since I lost mine during the pandemic, and our financial situation was dire. Training for this job lasts approximately 2 to 3 years, but if he completes it, he will earn a 6-figure salary. In 2022, I completed my degree and secured a job in 2023, which turned out to be the same job as him. Fast forward to now, both of us are still in training, and he is on track to finish, while I am experiencing difficulties and I am only 1 year into my training. He tries to support me to keep moving forward, but he cannot balance being in training with providing me the support I require. This job has caused me insomnia and led to poor dietary choices due to stress, while the house has descended into a state of disorder and filth because neither of us has time to clean, and I feel overwhelmed. He claims that once he finishes training, he can transfer back to his home state and that the job will be easier there because it is less busy. However, if he transfers, I cannot accompany him because first, I have not completed my training, and second, we are not married. Not being married after 9 years raises questions, depending on one's perspective. My options are to quit, marry him, or remain in my home state for the next 1 to 2 years while he is 2,000 miles away. He ultimately passes his training while my training is suspended because I did not meet a benchmark, requiring me to speak with higher-ups for more time or risk being terminated. I discussed this with my boyfriend, and we agree that I can quit because the job is not suitable for me, and I would have to resign anyway to move with him since he does not want us to be separated, and neither of us wishes to be forced into marriage. I made sure to confirm that he was okay with covering all expenses while I was unemployed, and he assured me he was fine with it. However, since I lost my job, I have noticed a shift in how he treats me. It feels like he respects me less. This could be just my perception, but I believe that any suggestion I make is dismissed, and we end up doing what he wants. It seems as if he has developed a sense of superiority. It has only been about 2 weeks since I lost my job, so it is too early to draw conclusions, but he had an outing with his coworkers last week and mentioned he was going to a restaurant. After 3 hours, I texted and called him to check if everything was okay, but he did not respond. An hour later, I texted him again to ask what time he would be home, and he said an hour. However, the restaurant closed an hour ago, so I was confused about why he was not on his way home, which prompted me to express my confusion. He did not reply. I began to feel anxious, so I started calling and texting him repeatedly. 15 minutes later, he responded to say they were going to a bar. This is when I began to panic because he had not informed me of this change prior to leaving. He either knew and withheld this information or they decided on it spontaneously. And he had also lied about when he would come home, which was longer than he initially suggested. Now he was ignoring my texts and calls. I continued to call him because his replies were too vague and he was not providing me with the full truth, but he did not answer. He did not text or call me for the remainder of the night. I took a drive to clear my head since my thoughts were racing about why he wasn't reaching out. When I returned home, the door was locked. I found myself unable to enter the apartment because he had come back and dead-bolted the door, meaning only someone inside could unlock it. I began to panic because it was 3 a.m. and I banged on the door. I went to the back where our bedroom window is and banged on the window as well. Nothing happened. I continued to call him, hoping he would let me in, but he did not answer. At this point, I was at a loss for what to do. He had never locked me out of our apartment before. I called his mother because I had no one else to turn to, hoping he might answer her. She was upset with him for ignoring her too and suggested I get a hotel room because she was unsure what else I could do. I spent the night in a hotel and returned to the apartment the next morning. When I inserted my keys into the lock, the door opened. I checked my phone to see if I had missed any calls or messages from him because he must have gotten up to unlock the deadbolt, but there was nothing from him. He was aware that I had not been home during the night and did not reach out to check on me. I never stay out overnight without his knowledge. Regardless, I confronted him, asking where his phone was since he had locked me out of the apartment. He replied, "I forgot it in my car." Mind you, he never forgets his phone in the car, so this was clearly intentional. I asked if he did not hear me banging on the front door. He said he was asleep. I mentioned going to our bedroom window and banging there as well, but he did not respond. This comes from a man who claims my snoring keeps him awake at night, yet he could sleep through someone banging on his bedroom window. He is being ignorant and evasive because he knows he messed up. It also appears that after I texted him twice and began to call him repeatedly, he simply tossed his phone in his car for the rest of the night he was out. Whenever we go out together, he is glued to his phone, but when he is just with coworkers, he leaves his phone in the car. I am at a loss for how to process all of this. After 9 years, this is how he behaves. As I write this out, I realize I have to leave him. I have been aware for a few years now, but I was never financially stable enough to afford my own place. Perhaps he is aware of this and uses it to his advantage. However, after being locked out of my own home and realizing that the person who is supposed to love and care for me did not care about my well-being, I must make a decision. Should I stay with him until I secure a job again and then leave now, or attempt to make things work? I still love and care for him, and I do not want to leave due to my fear of being alone. This has been our goal, to have well-paying careers, and it is discouraging that after 9 years, he has found a great job while I feel like I have regressed because I could not succeed in my job, and now I am uncertain about what job I can pursue that pays well. However, after writing this out, I realize I was never a priority. He places a higher value on his friendships and video games than on me. I feel as though he used me to get a job here, and now he can return to his true home. I was merely a convenience for him. In summary, I have experienced physical and emotional abuse and manipulation to remain with a man until he found a well-paying job so he could transfer back to his hometown. 2 weeks after losing my job, he locked me out of our apartment and did not let me back in because he was sleeping, even though I was banging on our bedroom window and he accidentally left his phone in his car, rendering him unable to answer my texts or calls. Therefore, I must choose to leave the man I have spent 1/3 of my life with, find a job, and face financial insecurity for an unspecified time and seek housing, or stay with him knowing I will have financial stability, while attempting to work things out and deciding whether I want to move with him to his home state, enduring the possibility of further abuse or hoping he treats me better. Story 3. My best friend only reaches out when she's lonely. After 10 years, I'm tired of being the backup plan. You shouldn't feel that way, she said, but I can't shake the feeling of being sidelined for her new friends. Should I distance myself or fight for our friendship? Summary, my best friend only puts in effort when she has no one else to turn to, making me feel like a low priority. I'm uncertain whether I should distance myself or try to salvage our friendship. To provide some context, I am a 21-year-old female and I have been best friends with H, a 20-year-old female, for 10 years. We have drifted apart a couple of times but always managed to reconnect. I had always thought she would be my maid of honor and the godmother to my children, remaining in my life forever. She has always been somewhat selfish, which I understand, as many people are during their early 20s. She lost a parent when we were both 16 and was clearly devastated. This coincided with the peak of COVID-19, which further isolated her. After high school, I attended college to study biology, while she worked for 2 years before applying to colleges last year, ultimately getting accepted to start in September 2024. Additionally, she struggles with responding to my texts, which we have previously discussed. It often frustrates me that she frequently communicates with everyone else but does not apply the same effort in our friendship. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism, as well as some severe mental health struggles, primarily borderline personality disorder. I tend to avoid discussing these issues with anyone other than my therapist, as I do not want to burden my friends. My best friend and I often experience significant life events together. We both entered our first serious relationships simultaneously, both of which were toxic, and we were each cheated on. Our breakups occurred within a month of each other. During those relationships, we grew apart as our partners isolated us from others. However, we became even closer after the relationships ended. We also found ourselves in similar situationships at about the same time, though neither of our partners liked the other and both believed we were too close, aware that we would point out each other's red flags. Last year, while she was traveling for 3 months, our communication decreased significantly. I went from FaceTiming her almost daily to only receiving one Snapchat per day, which I did not mind at the time since she was enjoying herself, something she well deserved, given her past struggles. I have a small group of close friends, while she is much more outgoing and has a larger social circle. During her travels, I started dating someone, and she expressed concern about us growing apart again now that I was in a relationship. I informed her that I would prioritize our friendship once she returned home. When she returned, I planned to meet her at the airport along with her brother, but I could not attend due to a last-minute university trip for data collection related to my thesis. I informed her as soon as I learned about the trip, and she seemed to understand the educational significance. Upon her return, she was busy reconnecting with others and preparing for college, while I had to be out every day for fieldwork. However, I managed to see her the following week. It is also relevant to note that she lives a 20-minute walk and a 15-minute train ride away from me. Throughout our friendship, I have visited her countless times, while she has only come to my house 4 or 5 times. She often claims she is too busy to meet near my place, which has never bothered me until now. As she began her first year of college in September, I entered my final year. In late September, we had an argument in which she accused me of neglecting her since her return, saying she felt I only spent time with my partner. I took accountability for that but expressed my concerns, stating that whenever she has other friends, our communication dwindles, and it seems she only reaches out when she has no one else. She dismissed my feelings, stating that it upsets her that I think that way. While I recognize that there are two sides to every disagreement and I apologized, from my perspective, she returned from her travels and was busy every day with other friends. This was not a criticism, as I was glad she was reconnecting. However, she did not message me to suggest meeting, and I was also occupied preparing for my thesis and my important final year. I attended college in my home city and had been living at home for my last year, while her college is a 2-hour drive away. Neither of us drives. She has a car but no license, while I have my license but cannot afford a car. My family lives in the city where she studies, and I used to spend a lot of time there. I have visited her twice since she started college. The first time for just a few hours, and the second time was a couple of weekends ago when we went there for Mother's Day to visit my grandmother. A week prior to that visit, I texted her to see if she was available since I would be taking the train back on Sunday due to classes on Monday. I mentioned that I would love to see her and planned to book my train ticket for 5 p.m. if she was free. If not, I would have to book it for 1 p.m. so I could return home sooner. She replied that she was free and looking forward to seeing me, so I went ahead and booked the 5 p.m. ticket. On Saturday, I messaged her to express my excitement about catching up, and she reciprocated, mentioning she was eager to give me a hug. However, on Sunday morning, I did not hear from her, so I asked what time and where she would like to meet. I arrived at the train station at 1 p.m. to pick up my brother who was coming to see my grandmother. My parents were there to collect him. At that point, she informed me that she could not meet because she was going out for lunch with her friends. She offered no apology. I responded that I would wait in the train station and work on my thesis. At that time, I had not seen her in 4 months, and I had been extremely busy with my thesis, which was due 2 weeks later. I had spent the last 6 months focused on that, along with other college assignments, and final year is particularly challenging. I sat in the freezing train station for 4 hours, struggling with lousy internet, feeling annoyed because she could have informed me about her lunch plans earlier, which would have allowed me to book an earlier train. I did not have the funds to pay the 15 fee to amend my ticket to an earlier one, as the original fare was already exorbitant. I see my grandmother frequently, so had it not been for my plans to see my friend, I would have chosen to stay home and work on my thesis until I could visit her afterward. I had made the trip to see my friend yet ended up feeling let down, but I brushed it off. The final straw for me occurred when she came home for Easter this week. I had been busy with my thesis and told her I would see her once it was completed. I couldn't afford to miss my deadline, so I suggested she come to my place or meet at a nearby coffee shop while we worked together, but her schedule did not permit. I agreed to see her once my thesis was done, and she accepted that. However, 2 days ago, she posted a story with a mutual friend who lives just a 2-minute walk from my house while walking that friend's dog in the park next to my house. I walk my dog there every day. She must have walked past my house to get from her friend's house to the park and back again. I understand that I have been busy, but she did not reach out to say, "Hey, I am walking near your house. Come say hi for a couple of minutes." This mutual friend and I have previously walked our dogs together, and I know she would not have minded inviting me along. Since they attend college together, she sees this friend regularly, especially since they were all home for Easter break after going to the same high school. All of these issues, coupled with our last two interactions, have left me feeling deeply hurt and confused. Since she began college, she has hardly spoken to me, overwhelmed by new friends, and it has repeatedly seemed that when she makes new friends, I cease to exist in her life. I confided in my parents about this, and they were genuinely upset for me because this pattern keeps repeating. My dad suggested that I distance myself since the friendship feels predominantly one-sided, with me being the one who consistently initiates plans. She never proposes hangouts, yet seems upset when we go long periods without seeing one another. I'm uncertain if I am exaggerating or misinterpreting our interactions due to my autism, but I genuinely feel confused and hurt. I want to discuss it with her, but whenever I do, she turns it around on me, making it seem as if I am the one failing to invest in the friendship. I know she will point out that I manage to meet my boyfriend at least once a week, but he is the one who organizes plans and actively seeks to spend time with me, even amidst my busy college schedule. He sits beside me while I work, making me feel valued and ensuring he wants to spend time with me, even when it is inconvenient for him. I am unsure how to interpret the situation. I do not harbor any hatred toward her. I deeply care for her. We are very different individuals, and I believe if we met today, we might not bond as friends due to our differences. However, we were both caught in toxic friend groups during high school, which is how we formed our close relationship. This whole experience reflects my perspective, while I suspect she views it quite differently. When she expresses frustration toward me for not seeing her, she is valid in her feelings because we perceive things differently. I am unsure if I am being overly sensitive or if I genuinely lack clarity in this situation. It weighs heavily on me and causes significant emotional pain. I wish to maintain our closeness, but do not want to be the sole person investing effort in the friendship. How should I approach this? Story 4. I'm a 27M stuck in a toxic cycle with my 25F girlfriend. I don't actually love her anymore, yet I thrive on her obsession and affection. When she pulls away, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is this what love is supposed to be? How do I escape this crazy loop? I know I am a piece of work, as is clear in the title, but I do not understand why I feel the way I do or how to escape this situation. A summary is provided at the end of the post. I need advice or assistance in understanding what is wrong with me. Additionally, I have not felt this way from the beginning and have not been leading her on intentionally. I genuinely believed I loved her until I recently reflected and realized I do not really like or care about anything about her anymore. I am simply pursuing the feeling of her loving me again. We cycle through phases in our relationship where she is entirely focused on me, obsessed, willing to do anything I ask regardless of how outrageous it is, going out of her way to do kind things for me, organizing her entire schedule around my day, for example, only planning to do other things if I am at work or at the gym. Otherwise, she just waits around for me, making or purchasing gifts for me, being very affectionate, taking time to learn about my interests. And it seems all we discuss is how much she loves me, misses me, wants me, is happy to be with me, admires me, and wants to emulate me, or how I make her feel so much better. She has called me the day after we saw each other in literal tears, sobbing that she misses me and wishes we lived together and that she just wants to be close to me. We live an hour and 30 minutes apart, so it is somewhat long distance. Much of our time is spent on the phone or FaceTime. She does not want to do anything without me. It appears to be to an extreme degree. She is hypersexual and forward, and we can spend entire weekends in bed for various activities, only leaving for showers, restroom breaks, or meals. As a perfectly sexually functioning, very fit and healthy male, I take Cialis, which she does not know, just to keep up. I am not going to lie, I do not feel smothered or bothered by it at all. I love it immensely. It feels incredible. I have never felt this wonderful with anyone before. When we are good, it feels as though she is my soulmate and the only person for me. The issue is that it does not last. When the relationship began, this intensity lasted much longer, and she would not withdraw, but as time passes, she only exhibits this level of intensity for a couple of weeks before withdrawing for at least several weeks to a month. It has reached the point where I now spend more time waiting for her to return to that state than I spend actually enjoying the relationship. When she is affectionate, I feel as though I am walking on eggshells to avoid ruining it, trying to make it last as long as possible, even though I am aware it is temporary. During these phases, I genuinely love our relationship and enjoy being with her immensely. I do not simply like receiving this kind of affection, I also love giving it back and treating her as the object of my affection. However, the difference is that I am happy to be this way consistently, 100% of the time, while she eventually feels smothered and pulls away. She becomes cold, barely responding to texts, does not want a phone or initiate seeing each other, though she never outright rejects me if I ask. I just do not like pursuing her and enjoy it more when she is pursuing me. I only want to see her if she is enthusiastic, excited, or acts obsessed with me, and is busy despite having previously skipped work or canceled plans for me at a moment's notice. She only says, "I love you," back, or if she says it first, it is typically before going to bed. She never expresses that she misses me, is very short with me, becomes sarcastic, and develops an attitude. She shifts from discussing our future together to talking about her own, for example. When we get married becomes when I get married. And we should go to Europe next year becomes I want to go to Europe next year, etc. And it feels as though she becomes an entirely different person. She becomes distant, and I swear it feels as though she is disgusted by me, resents me, or harbors some contempt for me when we are together. I feel so anxious that I become aware I am not being myself. I am putting on an edited performance to try to elicit validation and attention from her again. These phases now last longer than the positive phases, and it drives me crazy. I used to feel secure, but now I am so anxious that I check her social media, constantly seek reassurance, feel perpetually nauseous, check her phone at times, and my entire world revolves around worrying about when she will like me again. Something as small as her saying, "I miss you" or "I love you" first feels like a huge wave of relief, and when she is completely back into me again, it feels as though I am high on drugs. I have attempted to break up with her about this several times, telling her it is clear she does not want to be with me anymore due to her cold demeanor, and she denies it, insisting nothing is wrong and that she is completely the same. It makes me feel insane, so now I document how positive and affectionate she is toward me. How often she initiates or says, "I love you" first, etc. There is a significant difference. She agrees to a breakup, but then 1 or 2 days later she is calling, begging, crying, and pleading, making promises to change, becoming extremely obsessed and sexual with me all over again, and I can never say no at that point. Everything feels good again and it seems like things will work out, then gradually she withdraws more and more again until only a few breadcrumbs of love and affection remain. I have gone from being a very fit, driven, purpose-focused young man to being obsessed with her, skipping the gym, and only able to concentrate on how she feels about me, sitting and merely waiting for her to want me again. Nothing else seems to matter compared to how she feels about me. I am hypersensitive to the slightest differences in tone, facial expressions, or delays in communication. I feel as though I cannot be myself, and all I do is try to make her like me again. I have transformed from being calm, confident, and easygoing to being an insecure and anxious wreck. Even sex has become about getting her to climax as many times as possible so that she becomes obsessed with me, and there is literally no intimacy left. I do not even enjoy it, and it feels so performative. I am just mechanically focused on getting her off and doing what I believe she will appreciate. It is one of the few guaranteed sources of validation I can receive from her consistently. To be honest, I am not even physically attracted to her anymore. I have also realized there is not much I genuinely like about her after reflecting on our relationship. She is very pretty, with genuine model-like looks and body, and genuinely quite intelligent and competent in many areas, but that is about it. I only like the feeling she provides me and how she makes me feel, and I engage with her mainly on a superficial level to obtain that. When we discuss ordinary topics unrelated to our relationship, expressing love for each other, sex, etc., I find myself bored and uninterested. Even my love and care for her and my willingness to do anything she desires are merely me treating her as some sort of avatar for me to pour love into in order to feel good about myself. I do not genuinely care about her anymore. I have also realized I walk on eggshells so as not to treat her too well. If I do not treat her well, maintain a distance, cancel plans with friends, leave her on read, etc., she becomes obsessed, chasing me and in love all over again. However, the moment I reciprocate, she withdraws. It is so frustrating, confusing, and painful. I do not truly connect with her on a deep level, and what I perceive as connection and intimacy is merely me trying to force her into some idealized fantasy version of herself. Our relationship, despite its intensity, is very superficial and devoid of any real love and care for one another. The problem is that I dream she might change and love me consistently. I have already invested 2 years into this, and we have many plans for the future. Whenever I summon the strength to consider breaking up, she reels me back in, and I know I am not strong enough to resist, so I let her believe that we will get married, move in together, and build a life together. Deep down, however, I recognize that this relationship must end, and I need to get out as soon as possible. I feel like a terrible person because she is a good individual and does so much for me. And unlike me, I believe she does love me but is just troubled and cannot handle intimacy, while I am merely using her for attention and a validation high. Please help, what is wrong with me, what is wrong with her? Can we remedy this or is our relationship doomed? Summary, my girlfriend acts obsessively toward me until I reciprocate, then she withdraws and becomes cold. I realize I do not love her and am merely chasing that feeling of her being obsessed again, idealizing a fantasy version of her that does not exist. While she is cold, I feel as though I am losing my mind and the anxiety consumes my life. I recognize I need to break up but lack the strength, so I am misleading her. Story 5. My life is perfect, but I can't help but hate everyone close to me. I admit, I treat people badly despite their kindness. In moments of rage, I even ponder, if my mom was in an accident, I wouldn't press the button to save her. Am I a lost cause or just misunderstood? To begin, I 19 years old female would like to express that I have truly been fortunate to have an incredible life. I have two loving parents with a comfortable income, a sibling with whom I get along, and wonderful friends throughout my life. There has been no trauma, no hardships, essentially nothing negative. There is absolutely no justification for why I think and act the way I do. I would also like to mention that, yes, I am a teenage girl. However, if anyone suggests that all teenage girls feel this way, I will be very angry. I understand that many people experience similar feelings, but it is my reactions and mindset that make me feel as though I am a bad person. You can criticize me as much as you wish, I believe I need it. When I am in a good mood, it feels as though I forget that I have ever been in a bad mood. I cannot conceive of wanting to leave my loved ones or hurt them, I care for them deeply. Yet at other times it feels as if a switch has flipped and I feel intense dislike toward them, wishing to leave and never see them again. I harbor deep resentments towards people who have shown nothing but kindness. I am capable of forgetting any positive qualities, focusing solely on minor flaws or minor grievances, and then I allow those hateful thoughts to dominate my mind. When I am in a bad mood, those thoughts invade my mind so loudly. Anything I do seems to be criticized by a version of someone I have not even spoken to in years, or I am reminded of some random incident that instantly infuriates me. The worst part is that I know my anger is never justified. No one has ever treated me poorly. This is not a situation where I fail to recognize mistreatment, I have simply mistreated others. I have been unkind to every partner I have had. In moments of negativity, I cannot remember ever loving them, nor can I fathom that they could genuinely love me. My responses tend to range from blocking, remaining silent, or not communicating, to going on rants about how they are suffering due to my mistreatment and should leave me. Occasionally, I even express my bewilderment at how anyone could love anyone else, deeming the notion absurd and nonsensical. Such remarks can be hurtful to hear from someone you love. They have consistently been amazing and supportive, yet any attempt to comfort me only ignites further anger. I desire for them to feel anger toward me. However, if they ever express discontent toward me, which is quite rare, I either become angrier or exhibit clingy and apologetic behavior. For some reason, whenever they attempt to share their own mental health struggles, it triggers a negative reaction within me. I despise it. I feel so immature, like a child who wants to play on the swings but finds that someone else has taken their turn. The reality is that they all wish to see me as a good person. I am aware that I am not a good person. A character might lash out because they deep down hate themselves, but I lash out because I harbor animosity toward them. They irritate me, they frustrate me, their actions do not matter, it does not matter what kind of individuals they are. Are they talkative, lively, and opinionated? I despise it. Are they reserved, well-educated, and good listeners? I despise it. Are they affectionate, adventurous, and fun? I resent that too. There is no acceptable behavior. I find myself unsure of how to handle my internal turmoil. When I am in a good mood, I tell myself I should be a better person, journal my feelings, identify what angered me, and remember that I genuinely love them. I need to breathe and think before acting or speaking. However, the moment I descend into a bad mood, my solution shifts to end the relationship and avoid making new friends. You only cause them pain and they annoy you. Remaining in these relationships benefits no one. Each side of myself believes it is correct, while the other side is irrevocably wrong. In my younger years, I would often reflect on the day's events before sleeping, as many do. During nights filled with overwhelming regrets, I would devise rules to govern my behavior. These rules varied based on my emotional state. Stop hanging out with your friends. Stop being so loud, bad mood. Suppress your anger. Be friendly and open to everyone, good mood. Is it advisable to end my relationship with my boyfriend and cut ties with all my friends? I mean, it feels like I am consistently experiencing a 50-50 split between good and bad moods. If I remain in these relationships, I will feel dissatisfied half the time. If I leave, I will feel miserable for half the time. This conflict only arises with those close to me. With most people, I hold no anger. I genuinely do not mind helping someone, listening to them, or spending time with them. However, as we grow closer, I gradually start to feel slight annoyance toward them occasionally. The closer we become, the more frequent those feelings become, and if we become very close, well, the cycle repeats. I believe I experienced an ordinary number of violent thoughts growing up. Some were intrusive, some were harmless, and some were inquisitive. However, one day while working on a project, I had a chilling thought. I was mulling over the idea of my mother's death, a rather typical concern when I suddenly thought, if my mother were to face a horrible, fatal accident and someone offered me a button to prevent it without consequences, I would not press it. If so, why don't I just end her life myself? I cannot adequately describe how this thought felt different from any other regarding murder or harm. It genuinely frightened me. I ran to my room and lay on the floor feeling lost. Since that moment, aggressive thoughts about harming those close to me have occurred so frequently that I am no longer fazed by them. Instead, I find a twisted satisfaction in them. I recognize that such thoughts can be commonplace, but I cannot stress how much more intense they feel compared to the usual ones. They feel significantly more real, tangible, less rooted in annoyance, and instead imbued with this numb yet oddly pleasurable anger. I have since graduated from high school and moved out of state to attend college. When others inquire why I relocated, I typically offer some spiel about seeking opportunities and personal growth. However, the truth is that my only solace upon graduating was knowing I would never have to see my friends again. This thought offered me comfort during the last months of high school. Honestly, I have held this perspective for years. At night, whenever the flood of regrets from the day overwhelmed me, the thought that would calm me was, in a few years I will disappear and none of these regrets will matter. Naturally, I felt a twinge of sadness when saying farewell, and for the first weeks after moving, I did not adhere to my disappear plan. I reached out to them because I genuinely cared about and missed them. However, over time, the moments spent loving them diminished, while resentment and regret grew. Now, I have not spoken to the people I grew up with in years. I apologize for the lack of organization in this message. I wrote this in a non-linear fashion, working on multiple sentences at once while shifting moods. I am certain that I did not accurately convey everything I wanted to express, but if I appear arrogant or ungrateful in this narrative, then I am pleased that I was able to reflect enough of my true self through writing. Thank you for taking the time to read this. It has been occupying my thoughts and I needed to release it.